Coming up on Warriors today by Chat Sports, Steph Curry sat down for an interview and he discussed a whole plethora of things as far as Klay Thompson's departure, the current state of the Warriors roster, and his future as a member of the Warriors. Also, San Antonio Spurs have entered the mix as a potential trade destination for Lauri Markkanen, and the offer that they're kind of comfortable throwing out there has been revealed. We'll react to that and stack it up against Golden State's reported trade offer as well on the back half of today's video. But first, we're in a heated sub battle this month, and we're in a good spot right now. 1,700 of you have subscribed to the channel this month, but those clowns over at 76ers now, they're beating us. They're over 150 subscribers ahead of us this month. We need our get back here. Jake Chipper cannot win this sub battle in July, so hit that sub button for the latest and most up-to-date Warriors news and updates around this entire offseason, into the regular season, and hopefully into another playoff run for Steph Curry and company. Hit that sub button right now, and let's get into today's video. All right, on today's Warriors Today by Chat Sports, Tyler Smith here, filling in for Chase Sr. as he has gone on vacation this week. But the topic of today's show, mainly that we'll be covering, is Steph Curry. He sat down with Marc J. Spears while playing for Team USA in Paris to kind of discuss a couple of things playing for Team USA. It's his first Olympics, as we know. And he talked about a couple other things as well as far as the Warriors roster goes and the future that he has with Golden State. So what he discussed, the Olympics and playing for Team USA, talked about Klay Thompson's departure from Golden State, kind of the first major quotes that we've heard from Steph since Klay signed with Dallas, and the fact that the fact or not that Golden State's roster might need an improvement or a number 2 scorer next to Steph Curry, and what will Golden State look like for the rest of Steph's career? Will he be a part of the Golden State Warriors as he nears the final years of his prime and his career for the most part? So let's focus on, for the most part, what pertains to the Golden State Warriors, what pertains to Steph Curry and his NBA career, right? He had a lot of nice things to say about playing for the Olympics and how this would mean a lot to him, getting a gold medal, playing in his first Olympics, playing with LeBron and all the great teammates he's had over there. But let's talk about what he has to say about the Golden State Warriors. First up, it's what he had to say about Klay Thompson's departure. And Steph says, it's still weird, man. It's been, about 3 weeks since Klay Thompson ended up making that deal with the Dallas Mavericks. He says, I really haven't figured out the emotions yet, just because it's one of those pieces that really won't sink in until you get to October and you go to the locker room and you're in your familiar sights and sounds of the Chase Center. All things have to come to an end at some point. I wish it would have turned out differently. I wish we could have rode into the sunset, all three of us, Klay, Draymond, and Steph, as Warriors for our whole career. Klay made a decision that he felt was best for himself. What we were able to do, for how long we were able to do it, and together, it's special, and it speaks to how hard it is to do that. So I'm going to choose to celebrate all the things we accomplished and all the experiences that we had, instead of feeling any type of resentment or getting pissed off about it. It's still weird, though. So with those comments from Steph Curry, it was kind of par for the course, right? I don't think there was ever any chance at there being bad blood between Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. The accomplishments that they have together, 4 championship rings, a whole heck of a lot of accolades personally, and the numbers that they put up for Golden State were second to none as far as what this franchise will see for a long, long time. Over 20,000. This is, by the way, from 2011 to 2024. So the career of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson since Klay Thompson has been drafted, since they have been the Splash Bros. Over 20,000 points from Steph Curry, 26 points a night. I mean, we know he's been one of the league's top 5 players basically ever since Klay Thompson was drafted. Klay Thompson, on the other hand, his entire career, 15,000 points, about 20 points a night. And if you look at the three-point make numbers here, they are at the top of NBA history. From 2011 on, Steph Curry made 3,400 threes. That would still rank number 1 all-time by a good margin, by almost 500, obviously second to Ray Allen. And Steph's got like 300 extra there as well. It's like 3,750 now. And Klay Thompson, on the other hand, his number, 2,481. That's 6th all-time, and the percentages speak for themselves. These guys are the best shooting duo that probably will ever grace an NBA court together, and the true shooting numbers are absurd as well. But at the end of the day, Golden State was never going to be a real contender if they ended up paying Klay Thompson the $20 million a year. They would have had to stay above that first apron, facing penalties in the luxury tax. I understand the thought process and wanting to stay and have that legacy forever as all three, Steph, Klay, and Draymond are Warriors for life. But at this point, I think the Warriors, as far as the future goes, are kind of in the best situation possible. I don't think that dragging out the last remaining years of Klay Thompson was the right thing to do, and it's best to celebrate what was and all the accomplishments that they did have in Golden State. But it leaves this question for you guys. Are you like Steph Curry? Do you wish Klay Thompson was still a Warrior? Let me know down in the comments if you're missing number 11 or not. Type Y for yes, type N for no, and let me know how you guys feel about Klay Thompson not being a member of the Warriors any longer. Now, Steph speaks further on what the deal is with Golden State, and he's talking about the Golden State roster as it is constructed right now. Obviously, we know they made a ton of moves this offseason after the departure of Klay Thompson, kind of coinciding with the departure of Klay Thompson in that 5-team mega deal. But Steph had some comments about where the Warriors roster stands as of today. I always say I want to win, and I understand how hard it is to win in this league. What we look like, I don't know. It's hard to envision all the change that's happened. I know we have some talent that's ready to blossom with Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and Trayce Jackson-Davis. I know we've brought in some vets like DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, and Buddy Hield. It'll look different. You have to make the necessary adjustments and evolve how we play to maximize the team that we have. I have an optimistic attitude that it's going to work and that we are going to be a competitor. Be in the mix until proven otherwise. That's the only way I can think right now. And that's understandable, right? You don't want to go out there and trash the new roster that you have. Say it's not good enough and say you can't compete for a 5th championship all the time. But these words don't tell me that Steph Curry has 100% confidence that this team is willing to make a deep playoff run and has the ability to compete with some of the best teams in the West. If you look at the Thunder, they were the 1 seed last year and they only got better. Minnesota got better. Denver not necessarily got better, but they're still better than you. Like, they have the best player in the league in Nikola Jokic. So there's still tons of teams. Dallas getting Klay. They got better, and they were in the finals last year. So there's all this talent out there in the West, and Golden State, as it stands right now, just doesn't have the talent that stacks up against those teams and looks like a team that's going to compete a Western Conference Finals run or an NBA Finals run or an NBA championship run. It's great to be optimistic, Steph, about the talent that you have around you, but it is apparent that a move is needed because if you look at your number 2 and 3 options here, it's Jonathan Kuminga, it's Brandon Podziemski, and are you really winning a championship with those two guys as your number 2 and 3? Yeah, you still have Draymond in there, but has he ever really been much of a scoring threat outside of Game 7 in 2016? Sorry to bring it up, but he's never really been that elite scoring threat for Golden State. Down the line, these guys are going to be really, really good NBA players. I can see Brandon Podziemski being a 12 to 15-year starting point guard in this league. He's a great decision maker. Jonathan Kuminga is an athletic two-way wing with a big frame that is the premium in today's NBA. But I just don't see that these two guys being pivotal championship pieces for the remainder of Steph Curry's career. I would feel better about Golden State's chances to win a championship right now if you moved one of the two for Lauri Markkanen. And that can be a move that you make where you're thinking about the future as well. Lauri Markkanen's only 27 years old. He has that unique time frame in his NBA career right now where he's ready to affect winning, and he's also a piece you can build on for the future as well. So the bottom line is Mike Dunleavy has 2 options. You either develop the young talent in Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski and likely not win another title with Steph, or you trade one of them. You go all in and you make a trade for Lauri and you see what you have with how great of a spacing lineup that could be with Lauri Markkanen out there and how he can alleviate a ton of pressure off of Steph, so you'd still have that number 1 and number 2 clear options, and you probably keep one of Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski. So I think there's 2 options. You can either think about the future and say goodbye to any other championships with Steph, or you could go all in and pay respects to a guy who's basically made your franchise. Steph Curry is the Golden State Warriors, and you need to honor him by trying to compete with all these teams atop the West for the rest of his career because he deserves it and he's earned it. What do you guys think, though? What would you rather do? Would you rather keep the young talent or go all in on a Lauri Markkanen trade? Let me know down in the comments by typing T for trade or K for keep. I'm curious to see what you guys want to do. Do you guys want to mortgage the future, or do you want to see what these 2 players in Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski have? Let me know down in the comments section. And next up, we have Steph's future in Golden State. He made some comments about what it would take for him to potentially leave the Golden State Warriors. Plus, San Antonio Spurs, they have a trade offer out there for Lauri Markkanen. So we're going to discuss that and more after this quick 60-second ad break. And I would be remiss if I finished this video without telling you guys about GameTime. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices in the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. I've had a ton of great experiences with GameTime. I was recently at a Yankees-Red Sox Sunday night baseball game, and GameTime hooked it up. It was a great viewing experience. I knew where I'd be sitting, and I had the view from my seat before the game, or before I even purchased the tickets. Also went to a Travis Scott concert with my good friend Jake Chipper using GameTime. We got a great deal from them. So if you look through the GameTime app, there's a ton of great features that you can have. And by the way, when you are using this app, use code ChatSports, because that way you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but you're going to get $20 off your first purchase when you're using GameTime. And it's just so great because there's a lot of ticketing apps where you really can't see your view. Here at GameTime, you can check the view. You can see exactly what your seat is going to look like when you're at the event. And the best thing about GameTime is they have all of these different features that can help best customize the spot that you're going to sit in and the experience that you're going to have at a game. They have flash deals. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game of the event. There's priority last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off tickets buying at the last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater productions, and more. And even zone deals. They'll put a specific zone out there in the stadium or arena, and they'll give certain deals on those zones. Plus, GameTime has all-in pricing. You're never going to be bogged down by hidden fees or anything else that comes with other ticket competitors. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets this season with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account at GameTime.co and redeem code ChatSports, ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Download GameTime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, Steph Curry, for the remainder of his career, does not want to be a bottom feeder. He does not want to be in that season where he was hurt and the Warriors got the number 2 overall pick and they were never competitive. I mean, that was coming off of a finals appearance and the Warriors were dead last almost in the Western Conference. That won't fly again for Steph Curry in the rest of his career. So here's what he had to say about what he wants for the Golden State Warriors down the stretch of his NBA career. It's tough, right? I've always said I want to be a Warrior for life. At this stage of my career, I feel like that's possible. And you can still be competitive. It doesn't mean you guarantee the championship. It doesn't mean winning. Winning is always a priority, but obviously you're realistic. It doesn't mean that that it's going to happen if you stay the course. You need to shake things up and keep reimagining what it looks like to evolve with what the league is at right now, with where some of these talented teams are now. I'm taking it one step at a time, to be honest. I think it's the only way that will protect my happiness. Also, it allows me to enjoy being myself when I'm out there playing, and I'll continue to make the decisions that are best for me in my career at the end of the day when it comes to just the imagination. I want to win. Let's put it this way. It's a long-winded way of saying if it's a situation where you're a bottom feeder and it's just because you want to stay there, I'd have a hard time with that, but I don't really think that's going to be the reality. So Steph saying here, the question that Marc J. Spears asked for him was that, if you look at legends of the past, like Kobe Bryant and Dirk Nowitzki, who stayed with their one franchise for their entire career, if you look at the tail end of those careers, they were on some pretty bad teams, missing the playoffs. I mean, Kobe's infamous last 60-point game had no significance on the Lakers' season. They were already out of the playoffs for a good large portion after that, and these teams had young talent on them that really wasn't able to propel each of LA or Dallas back to championship status after they had already won their titles in the early 2010s. So Steph does not want that for himself. And yes, I don't think that this Warriors roster is really ever going to get to that point. I think Steph's level of play, the level that he's at right now, he's still in the prime of his career, still putting up nearly 30 points a game. And the state of Golden State's roster right now, I mean, they made a bunch of good free agency signing moves. Like, I don't think they were great moves. I don't think they're moves that put you at contender status, but they're moves that keep you above water. They won't have them at the bottom of the West. But like I said, it doesn't really make you a real contender. I don't think that the state of Golden State's roster right now, you even know who your definitive number 2 option is. Like, you used to be Klay Thompson, but is it Jonathan Kuminga now? Is it Brandon Pajemski? Is it Andrew Wiggins, who they've been looking to move off of for a good portion? Right now, as of today, FanDuel has Golden State's title odds at 14th highest in the NBA. So They're basically saying the Warriors are mid. It's plus 4,500. You put $10, you win 450 if Golden State wins the title next year. The sports books in Vegas do not see Golden State winning a championship next season. But the question you have to ask after that is, will Steph want to leave if Golden State misses the playoffs? If they, the next 2 years, I would say, go on a run of where they're not making the play-in, or they're making the play-in, they're getting bounced in the first game again, like as a 10 seed, and Steph's really seen a situation where he's not contending for a title, could he want to leave? That is something that I'm legitimately asking right now based on his quotes that he gave to Marc J. Spears. It doesn't seem like there is any scenario that would keep him in Golden State forever unless they were competitive. And I don't think he wants to end up like Kobe or Dirk, but there's a chance that it does happen. He could end up eating those words and just be on bottom-feeding-ish teams for the rest of his career, staying at a 11 to 13 seed Warriors team while the rest of these young, talented teams in the West get better and contend for championships. It could happen, but I would be scared if it did because there's an opportunity that Steph might want to leave Golden State and not retire with the Dubs. But what do you guys think? Does Golden State have a chance to be worse than a 10 seed? They were a 10 seed this year, and some could argue they got better. Some could argue they got worse by losing Klay Thompson and Chris Paul and the like. So let me know it down in the comments. Scale the chances that this happens, the Warriors being worse than a 10 seed, 1 through 10, down below. And now finally, to wrap up today's video, the Spurs have a trade offer out for Lauri Markkanen. Let's discuss what we've heard as far as what San Antonio is going to offer Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz for the 7-foot three-point shooter. So this comes from Evan Sittery, and he says, and I quote, "The Spurs have shown a willingness to part with multiple first-round picks as well as Keldon Johnson in a potential deal for Lauri." So right off the bat, the meat and potatoes of that deal, the player that Utah is receiving back, obviously we know they want draft capital, but the meat and potatoes player that they're receiving back in this deal is Keldon Johnson. I think Golden State, if they offer Jonathan Kuminga and a package of picks, already blows that out of the water. Now, if you look at the stats between the two, Jonathan Kuminga and Keldon Johnson, keep in mind, Keldon Johnson started for the first couple of years of his career with the San Antonio Spurs. Look at last year, he kind of lost his starting job. 69 games played, only 27 of them started, and these numbers are very similar here. These are two fairly similar players. But if you look at the efficiency, Jonathan Kuminga's got him. Obviously, he does a ton of his work attacking the rim, and the three-point shooting from Keldon Johnson is a little bit better. But we saw Jonathan Kuminga's improve as the season went on, as his role increased last year. So it's good to see his efficiency go up with the volume. Keldon Johnson's volume went down, and so did the efficiency. So Keldon regressed when Victor Wembanyama came along. He didn't have the same role that he was putting up those empty stats for the first couple of years of his career. It's one of those situations where Keldon Johnson is looked at now as a lesser commodity than he did a few years ago when he was actually a part of the USA Olympic team, I believe, or FIBA team. He was on a Team USA of some sort, and it was very odd to see him on there. But Keldon Johnson just hasn't been one of those guys that is a needle mover for me, and he's gotten a little bit worse as the years have gone on. But at the end of the day, these two players, the whole comparison doesn't really matter anyways because Utah reportedly wants Brandon Podziemski in this deal. So are they going to accept a deal that involves Keldon Johnson? I'm not so sure. Are they going to accept a deal that even involves Jonathan Kuminga? I'm not sure. It might be Brandon Podziemski and a plethora of picks as to what Utah is seeking for Lauri Markkanen right now. But at this point, everybody seems to kind of be in the dark as to what the Jazz are really looking for because we talked about their initial trade offer, what they wanted back from Golden State. They wanted Kuminga, Trey Jackson-Davis, Moody, and Podziemski or whatever it was. That's a totally unrealistic trade offer. And the Warriors' trade offer initially back to them was Moses Moody and a plethora of picks. So they have to meet in the middle somewhere. Is that Jonathan Kuminga? Is that Brandon Podziemski? Only time will tell, but we have till August 6th until that is sorted out and Lauri Markkanen can sign an extension with Utah. But let me know, where do you think Lauri ends up? If it's the Warriors, type those GSWs down in the comments. I want to see a ton of GSWs down in the comments. If it's the Spurs, type SAS. And if it's the Utah Jazz, you think he signs an extension, you think all this trade buzz was for nothing, type UTA. And that's it for today's video. I know it was a long one, guys, but we want to keep you in depth and covered with every single piece of Warriors news that comes out. So subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. Let's beat those frauds over at 76ers now in our July sub battle. And we'll see you next time on this episode of Warriors Today.